Looking at the title of this video, you guys must be absolutely bamboozled as to what I'm doing. Well, I have so many computer parts lying around that I thought I'd actually put some together and make something usable out of the lot. Now, this is actually going to be a fairly cool little build. Some of the parts are actually really nice. Of course, this is pretty much free to me. I've had some of these parts donated to me in the past. I've bought some of them in the past for projects that I haven't done. And of course, the main guts are being ripped from my parents' old PC. So I have nothing that I can play games on at the moment. So I wanted to put together something that would at least play some alright-ish kind of modern games at really low settings or whatever. And I think this PC is going to be really cool. Now, I've got the term gaming PC in the video title, obviously, as you guys can see. But please, of course, you know, comments from the crazy people with, you know, SLI, GTX Titans and whatnot. You know, this obviously isn't the world's best gaming rig. This is just me grabbing a load of parts and throwing them together. Please note I had all of these parts already. I may buy a couple of extra bits and bobs for this if I need it, but I believe I have everything I need, and I will continue to look for parts as we're building if I need anything. So this is going to be fairly interesting. This is going to be quite a long video. Without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start by talking about the actual components that we're going to use. Here we have the first PC that I built my parents, I believe about 3 or 4 years ago. This was built from a trash-picked computer back then. So this motherboard setup, it's an MSI... Can't remember the model number, but I'll put it up in the video and it'll be in the description. It's an MSI board. It's a socket 939 board, I believe, and it has an AMD Athlon 3800 Plus dual core 2.2 gigahertz CPU, something like that. It's got 2 gigabytes of DDR400 RAM, and that is going to be the main bulk of the system. Now, I built my parents a brand new APU build that you guys saw, but this was an incredibly fun build, and it was a reliable computer for them. So we're going to strip this computer out, and you know, the case is really cheap and stuff, so I'm not sure what we're going to keep. Also in this case is a 320 gigabyte hard drive, a Western Digital SATA Revision 1 drive. Quite an old drive, but I believe it still functions 100% fine, so we're going to use that for storage on this system. Coming over here for the case, this is actually going to make the system look a lot better than it is. This is the NZXT Tempest 410 Elite crafted mid-tower ATX gaming case. Now this case was recently discontinued from NZXT, and this is something that I've never shown on my channel. But when I built my Lexer S build, my Phenom 2955 build, I did indeed buy this case to replace the Lexer S because I really went off the look of the Lexer S, and I wanted this case, and I found it for pretty much brand new condition on eBay for a really good price, but I never got around to swapping it because, as you guys know, I sold all the parts from my PC. I tried to sell the PC as a whole first, but that didn't work, so I sold all the parts. So I've had this next to brand new mint condition case hanging around for ages, so I'm going to finally put it to good use. Coming down to the video card then, we have the ATI Radeon HD 4870 512 megabyte edition from Sapphire. This of course was a legendary card in its day. The 4870 is still a really good performer. The other choice I had was using my Radeon HD 5450, which I had donated to me in the last video. This is a 1GB DirectX 11 compatible graphics card. However, the 4870 still absolutely smokes this card. As you guys, you know, it's pretty obvious that it would. It absolutely smokes it. I was looking at it on the that really cool GPU comparison website. Can't remember what it's called. But yeah, the 4870, still a very capable card by today's standards. I really like it. I may even, I bought this on the off chance on eBay for some unknown reason. If I ever find another one really cheap, I'll grab a cheap SLI motherboard for this socket as well, if they exist, and Crossfire, and stick in 2 of these in Crossfire if I could do that. I have no idea, but yeah, they're always turning up really cheap. Probably I'd go for one of those secondhand rather than a budget card today, or you know, even a 5870 secondhand these days is really cheap, so that's pretty cool. Very exciting stuff. Coming up here then, we have 4 parts that were stripped from my gaming PC that have pretty much no resale value, hence the reason why I haven't sold them. They've just been sitting in a box. That includes the 240mm Sigmatech fans that are sitting right there that I'm going to use for exhaust on the top of this case. Not that this system is going to generate that much heat, I'm just going to use them for looks really. Up there we have an LG SATA 22 times or 24 times or whatever it is DVD burner, of course. I like optical drives, that's going to be in there. All my games are on optical and on DVD and CD. And then we have my Arctic Cooling Freezer 7 Pro Rev 2. I think that's what that cooler is called. It's in bits and it needs a clean, and I don't know if I have all the original mounting hardware for it, but we're going to try and bung that on the socket instead of the awful stock cooler. Coming slightly over then, we have 3 120mm blue LED Yatloon fans. These are just normal fans. They actually came for free with my Tempest 410 Elite. The seller just chucked them in. So I'm going to use 2 in the front instead of the NZXT ones because I want them to be LED, and 1 in the back instead of the NZXT one because I want it to be LED. So that should look really cool. Coming over, we have that Thermal Take True Power 500 watt total voltmeter TVM power supply that I bought on the off chance with that 4870. I had a plan and a project to do with those two, but it never came off. So I have it knocking around. It's got a blue LED fan in it, so it'll match the build, which is really cool. And it's got this 5¼ inch bay fan controller total voltmeter thing, so that should be pretty cool. It's a semi-modular power supply. It's quite a nice unit for, you know, just a random second-hand thing that you got lying around, but it's obviously definitely not the best power supply you can get or anything like that. Coming down, we've got some zippers there. We've got the black ones that I'm probably going to use and the colourful ones that I really will not use. I've just got them there just in case. We have some 24-pin and 8-pin CPU extensions just in case I need them. They were ripped from my old build as well. And coming up, we possibly have the most modern component of the whole build. This is an 80GB Intel 820 series SSD. Now, please don't shout at me. I know this motherboard only has SATA Revision 1, but an SSD will still run on SATA Revision 1, and of course it'll still be quicker than a hard drive. Now, this was donated to me by Christian. Christian, huge thank you. He was donated it to me to go in my MacBook Pro, but I don't know if 80GB is going to be enough on the road on my MacBook Pro. So of course I am saving up for a different drive for my MacBook Pro, and I'll still be putting that SSD to good use. Coming over, the last thing, we have a couple of Molex to SATA power cables. Don't know if we'll need them. I've just got a standard one and then a nice looking braided one. So guys, they're all the parts of this PC. It should be a fairly exciting build. The first thing we're going to do is absolutely sabotage this case and rip some stuff out, and we're going to see what we can do. I'm also going to try and look for some more RAM, see if I've got at least another 1 gig stick knocking about, just so I can put in 3-4 gigabytes of RAM. That would be really nice. So I found some RAM, both from recent donations. They're both DDR400. One is 256 meg and one is a gigabyte. Both, neither or one of, may indeed work in this motherboard. No idea, haven't looked up what RAM it uses, but it's always worth sticking them in to give it a go. There's 2 1 gigabyte sticks in there at the moment, so if both of these work, then we should have 3.25 gigabytes in the system. So, you know, that's absolutely plenty considering the other specs. So before anything then, we're actually going to take a little look at the case, just so I can see what mounting hardware it comes with and, you know, other mounting hardware that I may need to source. So we're going to flip this over. Nice. Now this was, not sure why they discontinued, maybe they're replacing it with something similar but better, or they already have. I'm not really that kept up with cases. But this was a great budget gaming case. It looks really good, it's packed with features, and I was quite looking forward to using it. But you know, it never came to be. But now I can use this case, which I'm really excited about doing. So that is indeed the right way there. I will bring the camera closer in just a second and we'll have a look around this case. So the case and the SSD are of course the most modern parts of this system. But yes, this case is indeed looking very nice. So I know you guys probably can't see that much, but it did indeed come with the bag full of all the stuff and the box with all the stuff. So I think I've got all the stuff. This case is really nice. Quick overview then. We have 3 5¼ inch bays. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hard drive bays that I assume can support also 2.5 inch drives. Yes, they can. I can feel the screw holes directly on the sleds there, which is really cool. This case has ample room for cable management. I can get my whole hand through the CPU cutout. So no problem to get a 24-pin cable back there. We should be able to get this system looking pretty damn nice, guys. It's very exciting. We have nice cable grommets, you know, early cable grommets, so they rip off just like that. But, you know, they're nice to have. We have, let's take a little look down the bottom. We have a 120mm fan mount, as well as a bottom-mounted power supply with fan filter, which is cool. So it is a nice case. We've got some polystyrene in there that we'll have to get out, otherwise the power supply will suck it up. Of course, we've got a 120mm fan in the back. We have got our standard, I assume, 7 slot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 expansion slots. You can see all the cable management room this side of the motherboard tray, quite a lot of it. Now, something really cool about this case has a lot of awesome features. Let's move it up to the top, like so, and I believe the entire top just comes off if you pull it. There we go. And right up there is radiator support. Let me bring you up ever so slightly. We'll do it live. Hopefully this isn't too loud for you guys. There we go. You can stick a radiator up there, you can stick fans up there and a radiator beneath. It's a very flexible case. So I'm going to be sticking 2 140mm fans up there, which is really nice. This just pops back into place. Very sleek looking case. I've got it round the wrong way. Let's pop that down like so. I think that's wrong. No, that's right. There we go. At the front, we have this awesome headset cable management thing, or just a storage. You can use it as a storage base, so you just push it and it comes up. Actually, let me get a better angle to show you this. So, let's say you've got your headset plugged into the USB or the audio jacks beneath. You have the cable going up here, and you can ravel it up in there and have the cable going out there, so it's not too long. It can be the perfect height. And of course, there's another storage compartment there, which is really cool. On the front, we have reset button, power button, which is nice and clicky. 3 USB 2, 1 USB 3. Coming down a little bit, we have, of course, audio in and out. Right there, very hard to see, they're just black jacks. And then we have our quick release 5¼ inch bays. We have 3 of them. These are the bay covers. Let's see if I can get one of these back on really quickly to see if it's also quick apply. It is indeed. Wow, very cool. Coming down then, if we lower ourselves a little bit, here we go, here we go. We have 2 filtered 120mm fan intakes on the front, but this is what's cool. Check this out. Boom. Entire fan has come out. It has this contact pad right there that you just plug the fan into, and you have a fully, I believe it's filtered anyway. Let's have a little look. Yes, there's a filter in there, I can feel it. It's like a, I think you'd have to, no, the filter just slides out. Yes, here we go. Filter will slide out of there, I believe, if you can get it out correctly. I don't want to take it out anyway. And yeah, you got your whole fan off, really easy to clean, and you just bung it back on like so. You don't even have to turn off the system. So this case is obviously a really nice case, and I should have put my Phenom 2 build back in here. Looking forward to building inside this case, but I'm getting distracted with very cool things now. I need to put this to one side and leave it alone. Ooh, guys, I didn't show you the side panel. Basically, the side panel is still in really nice condition, so I want to look after it. It has a very large non-tinted, which is a big thing, because my other NZXT case had a tinted side panel, which I hated. It has like an angled, very large side panel. It's nice. It's got one scratch on it that I can visibly see, and that's it. You know, and this stuff scratches easy, so considering it has been used before, at least I think it's been used before, it's in fairly decent condition. But leaving all that aside for just a second, we have got to attend to the old computer case that I had for my parents and get the motherboard out and stuff like that. So here we have it, the PC in question. This was a really good little system for what it was, but it's time for it to go. Let's take out this graphics card. Can't remember what the graphics card is. I don't want to break the PCIe connector either because... Ooh, actually, hang on a minute, guys. It's got one of these... weird case release mechanisms. Alright, I see. Screwed in from the back. Now, believe it or not, guys, this case at the time was about £9 on eBay, which is, as you guys probably know, a bonkers price to pay for a case. Absolutely crazy. You know, I'd never heard anything like it before. And, do you know, considering that, it's actually a fairly decent case, but no resale value at all. Absolutely nothing. Anyway, slight ranting aside, let's try and get this video card out. Here we go. There's the graphics card. It is indeed a... can't remember what this is at all. GeForce 6600 LE stands for Light Edition. This is a 2005 card. Can you believe that it's 9 years old? Anyway, decent card to have hanging around. Nice to have a working PCI Express video card, as I said, hanging around. So let's unplug this board from the system. And basically what we want to do is get the board completely out and out of the way. So we've got some SATA cables here, but I believe I have some nicer SATA cables that I could use, you know, just for some eye candy. At least I think I have. I'm not even 100% sure. Let's take out the 4-pin CPU connector on this motherboard. That's interesting. And the 24-pin. Yes, it is a 24-pin. Gosh, that's a tight squeeze. This case is quite compact considering it takes a full-size ATX motherboard. Let's unplug the back fan, and we'll probably have to take off the rear fan to actually get the motherboard out. So I'm going to start unscrewing things. So with a lot of the cables yanked out and I think all of the screws out, we should be able to just take the motherboard out, I believe. Now it's going to be fairly firmly wedged in here, and I'm not even sure if I got all of the screws, so let me just... Yeah, I did. I got all of the screws. They're all out. Actually, no, we've got one right there next to the RAM slots. That's the thing with motherboards, there's always one more screw than you think there is. Let's have a look. Now this board, I actually upgraded my parents' PC primarily because of this motherboard. This motherboard is very bent, which I believe gave it a few issues. It had a few issues with sleeping and what else did it have issues with? I don't know, it was just really messed up in some ways, but at the same time still a solid system, if that makes sense. So to turn on every now and again to blast a few games, I really don't see the issue with, which is, you know, which is cool. Are we okay down here? Think so. All the screws out. Oh guys, I've missed another one. Still screwed in down the bottom. Oh, I'm getting too enthusiastic too quickly. And I thought I'd missed out at least half the screws when I was putting this board in, but I actually did take a lot of care when building this PC. I think a lot of that was because I was using such cheap parts, and half of it was from a bin, that I wanted to make sure everything was okay. So here comes the motherboard out of the case, and yeah, wow, it feels thin compared to the stuff that I handle these days. But anyway, let's move the case out of the way for now, put the board on the workbench, which is just a posh way of saying my little desk, and then we will take a closer look at it. So here we have the old motherboard, and it's actually quite a nice sight to see this baby again, because it was one of the first PCs that I properly fiddled around with. So, of course, let me just flip the monitor so I can see what's going on here, guys. Here we have the board. It's got the 2 gigs of RAM in it. Now I'm actually going to put in those other 2 sticks that I found. I'm just going to throw them straight in. I don't really care. If they don't work, we will soon find that out. So let me just have a look. And we will throw that one in first. And then we will throw this one in. So we might get 3.25 gigs of RAM or anywhere below that. So we've got some more RAM shoved in the system now, which is cool. Okay, the next place I want to address is indeed this CPU cooler. I want to take it off to reapply thermal grease anyway. Let me just check I indeed have thermal grease. Now, I do somewhere, I just don't know where it is. I may have to leave it on for now, which is annoying. Let me just have a look, guys. Well, unfortunately, guys, that's one thing I don't have is thermal paste. I don't have any thermal paste. Don't have any idea where mine has gone. I did have a tube of Arctic Silver 5 or something along those lines lying around when I did my graphics card in the oven trick that didn't work. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave this heatsink on here for now. But I have cleaned the fan a little bit. I've air dusted the whole motherboard. Nothing too extreme because I want to get this system built quick, but there are no big clumps of dust on this motherboard, which is always good. So guys, basically we're gonna start building, which is very exciting. Using this board should be good fun. There's a big clump of dust there. Yeah, I will find some big clumps that have gathered together, but I have generally aired the whole motherboard, which is very cool, and it's, you know, filled my room full of floating dust. And I'm going to sneeze any second, so I better pause this. So, like I said, I'm replacing this with the blue LED fan, but not quite yet. This will give us more space to work with the motherboard, which is cool. And I think we'll put the motherboard in before the power supply, because the power supply's got all sorts of random cables coming off of it. So we'll get all of that stuff in later on. Not sure what order I'm doing this build in, because it's quite an unusual one, but I am indeed really enjoying, which is cool. So there goes the back end NXT fan, and it is cable tied in, is it? Or is it just... No, it's not. Cool, so there it is. Nice fan, white, always nice looking fans. But we're going to put that to one side. We'll put its screws in with it. Now, one thing I think I'm going to do before I install the motherboard, guys, is actually put the two 140mm fans in the top of the case, just so we've got room to screw them in. So these are going to sit nicely in the top of the case, and there is indeed cable management holes, so of course the fan connector can go down there, behind the motherboard tray. Fan can go there, which is obviously really cool. And then let's get the second one out. These have got white LEDs in them, by the way, guys, in case you can't remember my last build. And this packet doesn't have fan screws in it, so we'll steal some fan screws from the ones that were in the back of the case, or something like that. But this fan will go here, so it does indeed support dual 140mm fans, which is very cool. That's going to look nice. So it's going to look a little something like that, but of course lit up. So not bad at all. Now, all I need to do is screw these fans in from underneath. I'm going to do that off camera because it's probably going to be a little bit fiddly. There we go, guys. The first Overkill Extreme gaming element is indeed installed. Two solid 140mm fans. Let's put the top cover back on. And I am looking forward to seeing them shine, even though they were never the brightest of LEDs. But, you know, it all adds to the experience, and of course, should stay cooler. I'm going to start doing time checks. It is 16:33, which is basically 25 to 5. It is a Tuesday evening, and I have got, I believe, the rest of the evening free to build. I started about an hour ago. I started gathering the parts together about an hour ago. So we're not doing too badly. I would, however, like to get the motherboard in the next 10 minutes. So, talking of the motherboard, let's slam it into the case. With the standoffs and I/O shield in place, let's pop in the motherboard. So I did indeed manage to get in all standoffs, which was cool. Stole them from the other case. And boom, that's wonky as hell. And boom. Yeah. So there's the motherboard, all screwed in, every single screw in the board, screwed into every single standoff. It's not going anywhere. Very nice fit. Very easy to put in. Now all I'm going to do is, they have these really nice little holes down here for the front panel connectors to come through and plug into the motherboard. So I'm just going to sneak those up there and plug in the front panel connectors, which, yeah, will take me a little while. So I'll do that off camera also because it's a fiddly job. I've got the manual somewhere on my computer, I believe, so we'll check it out. So as you guys can see, they are black connectors, mainly black, which is really nice thing about this case. And because of those good cable management holes, they are very, very hidden. So they look really, really good. Now it's time to get the power supply in. So this is something I never do, install a power supply fan up. I like the power supply to be its own integral, you know, cooling, you know, thing. It doesn't interfere with the system. So if I put the power supply this way around, it gets filtered air from underneath the case, filtered cold air, and blows it out the back, and it doesn't interfere with the system at all. Couple of reasons why I'm going to go fan up in this system. Reason number one being the label's upside down. Okay, that makes no sense. Thermal take, come on. I know this is an old power supply, but the label is upside down. It looks ridiculous. Also, this label on the top is very ugly, and it's got an LED fan, so we might as well stick it this way up. I don't like the idea of sucking warm air from the system, but considering we've got two top exhausts and a back exhaust, sucking warm air from the system, I guess, doesn't really matter, and it has the screw points for it on the back. So let's screw it in. For a cheapo junky build out of spare parts, this is actually turning out really well. The power supply was a lovely fit, and check out that front panel audio connector. It's just come hiding from right next to the power supply there, all black, you can barely see it. It's plugged into the motherboard, and I chopped off the old AC97, which was of course going to dangle into the power supply fan, and that wasn't sleeved anyway, so we chopped that off. Now all of these random cables coming off the power supply are indeed the all to do with the fan control, that front 5¼ inch bay controller thing. We're going to route all that around the back and leave it back there, finish installing, you know, the basic hardware, and then we'll see what we can do with that kind of thing. So now that we're done putting the board in and whatnot, we may as well put in one of our Yatloon 120mm blue LED fans. Now the top connector will indeed go behind the motherboard tray, which is nice, because we're probably going to reroute all the fan connectors back through, at least I think we are anyway, just to get everything, you know, wired up nicely. So here's the fan, and here's what it looks like on the back of the case. Very nice, just your average blue LED fan, nothing special. At least I don't think there is. I haven't even researched these fans to see how loud they are, how efficient they are, but of course it really doesn't matter in a system like this. You know, this is just, these are the fans I had. So as I drop a screw, let me just get this settled on the end of the screwdriver so we can get a good screw in here for starters. So naturally, in a modern case, hard drive mounting is really easy. It's all toolless, and I think with this one it literally just snaps into place. So you sort of line the two sides up. I think I jumped from installing the back fan as well, guys. The back fan is now in. Didn't catch that part on camera, but yeah, as far as I know, that's all in. You know, it's just snapped into place on the drive. You can secure it with screws if you want, but then you just slide it into the front where the fans usually are. You take those out obviously to install drives, as far as I know, and I believe you can just slide it back in. Let's have a little look. They do indeed click into place really easily, like so. They make an actual click noise, which is cool. So what we're going to do is grab the one above it then. We'll grab, you know, we'll leave one in between. And of course this is where we're mounting the SSD. So SSD mounting is done a little bit differently. I believe we actually use screws, which is, you know, totally cool, fine by me. Here's the SSD, Intel 520 series 80GB SSD, which is cool. Sorry guys, memory card issues again, but anyway, like I was saying, here we have the little drive sled thing. Here's the SSD. I believe it just sits there like that, and it screws on from underneath with the screw holes. So they should, in theory, line up at some point. I think they should anyway, but yeah, I'll take a look. So I'm loving this case, guys. As you can see, the SSD is on there. I've screwed it in with the 4 included screws. Well, there's loads of included screws. If you've got this case, you probably know this, but an interesting little thing to me was the fact that you had to take these little, they're sort of like guides for the 3.5-inch drives. You have to take them out. They just slip out normally, they're designed to come out. You have to take them out if you want to put a 2.5-inch drive or an SSD in there. But once you've done that, boom, it clicks. I believe that's clicked anyway. Straight back into place. Yeah, in my system. And now we have a hard drive and an SSD just chilling there. Actually, I think I've got it slightly wonky, have I? Nope, I haven't. Wow. Cool. Very, very cool. There are thumb screws all over the inside of this case as well. But yeah, so both drives are in. Now we might as well, in the same shot, give the optical drive a quick whirl. So this should be fairly painless. Let's just pan up a little bit. Tilt rather. Okay. So let's take off the 5 1/4. We'll slide it in from the front and see how far we get. Let's grab this and unpop the catch, slide back, pop down the catch, and boom, the optical is in. Wow, that is, yeah, that's what I call easy. I think I will put a couple of screws in the back, just in case. Not just in case, just because it is actually a bit loose. So these thumb screws may work. I think that's why they're here. Guys, I have no idea what these thumb screws are for. But anyway, yeah, the optical drive is in place. Being held in fairly well by that clip. I will get it sitting in there a little bit better. Ooh, while we're in here then, while we're in the front of the case, we might as well install this legendary and probably completely pointless voltmeter, which should be pretty exciting. So, here we have it. It is part of my power supply, and it does a couple of things. Not quite sure what at the moment, but it lights up, so that's cool. As you can see, thermal take, total watts viewer, not total voltmeter, total watts viewer. So that's handy. It shows you the total watts used by your system. So let's put this into the front. Total voltmeter. What the hell was I on calling it that anyway? Let's take out this. I think we'll have it sitting below the optical drive. This is turning into a nice system, guys. I'm not shocked, I'm just sort of pleased, I guess. It's pretty cool. Let's thread that in there then. We will need to get back in here to plug in something else. I'm not quite sure what. Let's have a little look back here. Ah, okay. We will guide through the cable that also plugs into this as well. Just so that we don't have to try and maneuver ourselves later on. So that plugs into the back there. That's already plugged in. Boom. Let's slide that in. Like so. And that does actually look pretty badass. I've just got to line it up properly and screw it in. So let me find some screws, because of course the clip won't work at the back because it's not deep enough. First bit of handheld work in this video, guys. Just want to give you a little time check. It is indeed 5 to 6. This is taking quite a while, but it is indeed worth it. We have the 24-pin extension routed through there. We have a SATA power cable routed for the DVD burner under there, all nice and clean. We have our fan in the back. Power supply is in with its total watt viewer cables and going through there, and the fan control cables. And we have the SSD and hard drive in place, of course. And of course, our two 5 1/4s, including this fan thing, which is a bit wonky, I'll have to sort that, and the optical drive, which I have secured the other side with screws. So the cables are starting to build up back there, but we will continue to wire up the system. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to do next. I might have a little fiddle with those fan things, but I'm not too sure yet. I might do them at the end.